Hi, this is Bill Clinton with a special breaking announcement that I hope that WikiLeaks will contact me over. I'm releasing this information at great personal danger because we all know of my wife's penchant for murder, revenge, and general bloodlust. But I have no choice but to warn the American people that my wife and several other extremely mentally ill and dangerous people such as Peter Dow have gotten together and released a pathetic new website and book, and they're thinking about getting the band back together for 2020. I hope Julian Assange or Alex Jones or someone inside the Trump White House hears this message before the deep state and or my wife gets to me. In excerpt, which I am releasing to you now, from my wife's horrifying, turgid, and war crimes apologetic new book, she says the following about Bernie Sanders, who, of course, as we all know, would have won. Jake Sullivan, my top policy advisor, told him it reminded him of a scene from the 1990 movie There's Something About Mary. A deranged hitchhiker says he's come up with a brilliant plan. Instead of the famous 8-minute abs exercise routine, he's going to market 7-minute abs. It's the same, just quicker. Then the driver, played by Ben Stiller, says, well, why not 6-minute abs? And that's what it's like in a debate with Bernie. We would propose an infrastructure investment or an ambitious new apprenticeship program for young people, and then Bernie would announce basically the same thing, but bigger. I can personally tell you that Hillary has never supported any kind of ab workout program at all. Neither have I, and we've been together for decades. It's a complete lie. Bernie Sanders was right about every single policy proposal, and my wife's policy shop, in between engaging in various war crimes and stealing the primary from Bernie, the best they could do was come up with a reach from an overrated late 90s comedy to throw a noble socialist under the bus. Now, I need this recording released before she comes home. I am in danger. If Julian Assange could contact me through a secret channel at the Ecuadorian embassy, we can save America and the world from 2020. She's coming again. She never rests. Oh, fuck. That's her. Bernie would have won.
Welcome to the Michael Brooks Show. We're recording live for those of you watching and listening live, and to tape for those of you checking this out later in Brooklyn, USA, downtown Brooklyn, USA. Joining me now, of course, as always, is super producer Matt Leck. Matt, how are you?
Very well.
Very well. Super producer David Slavic, off location, but keeping it held down in the Discord, where patrons feed us topics, give us ideas we run with in the post game. We have a brilliant intern with us, Mohammed, who's off mic, representing Abu Dhabi. He's here. It's the Secret Muslim Brotherhood connection on the Michael Brooks Show, as always, of course. And on this program, it's a rich buffet for all of you. Two things happened today that really exemplify the full, both pathetic and sad comedy we're in, and the really grotesque full frontal assault of this dangerous white nationalist government of Donald Trump. DACA was canceled. Jeff Sessions lied about it. This happens days after the pardoning of Joe Arpaio. His criminality and racism is obviously connected with this policy shift. And in my commentary, I will connect the dots and the threads there. And, as if on cue, just when we're facing the full brunt of the dangers of these fucking degenerate people, Peter Dow comes out with a new way to actually ironically embarrass Hillary Clinton. But he can only take the spotlight so much because, of course, she had to put out a book where she embarrasses herself. That opening Bill Clinton monologue was not entirely wrong. And before we get to the opening commentary, and then Big Waz, crew, he's joining us. Also with me today is going to be Ricky Rawls. We're going to be doing an interview on the next wave of Clinton apologetic, pseudo-woke, pseudo-identity politics, and how the progressive left can find the right rhetorical and strategic agenda to battle that and really take on these dangerous people that run the country. And then also Brittany Sneers from the Institute from Progressive Mometics is going to join us briefly to talk about some work that they're doing mocking Verrett. And then, and this is just a rich buffet today, Kath Bondaro is also going to be in studio later on for the end of the show with Waz, and then they're both going to come to the post game. She's a comedian, DSA member, and she does tarot card readings. And we're going to do tarot card readings for Sam Harris, Gorka, and Hillary Clinton. And that's all after the pyramid. But first, we have to start with this commentary. Now, DACA was ended today. Jeff Sessions looked like a incredibly pleased and vindicated little man when he announced this policy shift. And that's because that's exactly what he was. His whole politics, and let's be clear about his politics, this is a man who had such a racist record that he could not get a federal court position in Reagan's America, is now Donald Trump's attorney general and out there canceling DACA, not taking any questions. He lied about DACA paving the way for the border crisis that happened a couple of years ago on the Mexican border with children fleeing from places like Honduras, completely neglecting the reality that Honduras was the murder capital of the world. And at the same time, as these people like to use disjointed stories about gangs from Central America and drug trafficking and narcotics trafficking, a market which was accelerated by NAFTA and who we subsidized through our sort of endless appetite for methamphetamines, cocaine, and every other drug imaginable. When they are not using these gangs and these violent statistics to justify xenophobia and fear-mongering and doing things like canceling DACA, they're completely ignoring the existence of these dangerous situations in places like El Salvador and Honduras to justify canceling this policy. And it's disgusting on a number of levels. One, a 5-year-old fleeing Honduras because they're under threat by a gang has nothing to do with a policy shift by an administration. That's a refugee trying to find help where they can get it, and it's a child. That's a lie, and it's obscene. Secondly, DACA applies to children that were brought here as children by parents. They've done nothing illegal. They've done nothing wrong. It's a complete moral obscenity and an act of tremendous sadism. And that is what connects Sheriff Joe, who was pardoned by Trump, and it also connects another guy that we need to be paying attention to, Chris Kobach of Kansas. These are the primary architects, along with Jeff Sessions at a federal level, of what we see now as the sort of more realized Trump agenda. Chris Kobach was on MSNBC earlier today. This is Tuesday, September 5th, talking about the Dreamers. Listen to what he said they should do after the canceling of DACA.
Under this program, if this program ends and is rescinded,
886,000.
what are these people supposed to do? Should they self-deport? Should ICE go after them and round them up?
What I would suggest they do is that they go back to their home country, get in line with the hundreds of thousands of people from their home country who are trying to do it legally. We forget about the people who are, trying to follow our laws.
These Dreamers are here
I suggest
legally.
They try to follow our laws too. No,
These Dreamers are here legally now. One of them. Let me ask you
this temporary status.
Let me personalize a little bit, because there's some. You mentioned 800,000 Dreamers roughly in this country. One of them is Angel Romero. He was brought here illegally when he was 2 years old, and I want you to listen to what he has to say here.
I basically got the message that my country doesn't want me here. It's trying to get rid of me, and it was very confusing.
If you could talk to somebody like him, or to somebody like Jesus Contreras, who is a paramedic working in Houston, who is here under the DACA program, he's a dreamer. What is your message individually to him?
A couple of things. One is that he's gotten a great gift from the American taxpayer. He's gotten the best free public education in the Western Hemisphere. And, he should be grateful because we, the taxpayers, have paid for that. And we're saying, look, if to be part of the American country, then do it legally. Go to the home country.
But
your parents who brought you in illegally could go with you.
They're also paying taxes when they're here as dreamers.
Right.
So they're,
sure.
they're not relying on the American taxpayer. They're relying on themselves as well, right?
Well, no, No, that's not correct. The vast majority do not pay enough in taxes to compensate for the benefits that they are receiving from the government. So they're net takers from the system. So yeah, paying some tax. We all pay some taxes when we buy a pack of gum at the store. But that doesn't mean that we're paying our that we're carrying our weight in the American economy.
That's not what we're talking about here. And in addition to the idea that they pay taxes, they also give a lot of information to the government when they came forward to get on the program, as you're aware. They trusted the government. They provided a lot of personal information. There's concern now about that. What do you think the government is going to do or should do with all of that information that these dreamers have provided?
Well, what the Department of Homeland Security has said is that in any allocation of our resources for deporting people, we're always going to go against those who are committing crimes and those who present, our gang members first. So if you've...
Pause. Okay, so he ends on a lie because that's already in place in terms of policy. People who have any kind of felony are getting deported now. That has no specific implication for the dreamers. She should have stayed on that 90% number because it's true, and he spun on it and just said, that's not correct, and we all pay taxes when we buy a stick of gum. It's disingenuous, and it's a complete lie. And this is the sort of intersecting thread. Joe Arpaio, as a sheriff in Maricopa County in Arizona, practiced extraordinary criminal racism and had cases including, ignoring child sexual abuse. I'm going to read from a couple of highlights of Sheriff Joe. He ran a jail. This is from the National Memo. He ran a jail that he described as a concentration camp. Prisoners inside his care have died at alarming rate, often without explanation. One of his jailers nearly broke the neck of a paraplegic guy who had the temerity to ask for a catheter. So Kobach in Kansas is leading the charge on voter suppression. That's his angle, and deportations have to do with sort of softly ethnically cleansing America to set the stage for a white nationalist governance. Sheriff Joe practiced straight-up terrorism and racism as a law enforcement official, and Jeff Sessions has been trying and toiling in the Senate for decades to restore some notion of a pure white America, if we're being real about it. And now all of those things came together to a head today with that announcement of ending DACA. And you're going to see a lot more of it from the Trump administration because as they fail and lie about all of the fake economic populism, which he never fulfilled, they are going to double up and expand on every type of xenophobia, racism, and misogyny imaginable. So that's what we have to look forward to. And that's why we need to be serious in our opposition to them. Now, in a minute, we're going to get to Brittany Sneers. We're going to talk with her briefly about this kind of interesting project. You've seen these people on Twitter from the Institute for Progressive Memetics. Then we're going to talk with Ricky Rawls briefly. And then Big Waz. He's already arrived in the studio. He's banging on the door out there like he was trying to interrupt a robbery or something. He said, I couldn't hear anything, man. And it's unfair to hash it out while you're not on mic yet. But first, I want to thank everybody. We are at 595 patrons as of now. We are aiming to get to 1,000. That helps sustain and expand what we offer. I want to tell you, too, that as a patron, you're not only getting, the post game, which is going to be amazing. Think about the post game tonight. Waz in studio with me, your calls, your IMs, your topic selection from Discord, plus Kath Mondero is going to be with us, and she's going to do tarot card readings on some of the most unlikable people on the planet. That's going to be amazing. Then we have the primers and illicit history segments. This weekend, I just finished recording a conversation with South African journalist Mike Hanna on an underground or independent radio network he worked at during the apartheid era and the mechanics and the specifics of the first democratic election in South Africa. That's all going out to patrons. Plus now we're releasing a daily brief that comes out, which is basically either articles that we've written specifically for you or what we're reading with brief thoughts, analysis, and insight. And for those at comrade level and above, that's 21 and above, we're starting to initiate a series of group phone calls that are actually like trainings. So David Slavic was trained in Marshall Gans, who's a community organizer's work. And the call this Friday for people at comrade level or above, he's going to do an intro seminar for you on how to do Marshall Gans style organizing. So it's super relevant if you're trying to get involved in politics. Become a patron now. TMBS patron/TMBS. You know what it is. 106 reviews on iTunes. Let's keep it going. Please keep spreading the word. We appreciate it immensely. We're going to take a brief break, and we'll be back in just a moment with Brittany Sneers. Oh, you need a moment? Matt needs a moment. No problem. Matt's not superhuman. It's totally fine. We're going to be back with Brittany Sneers in just a moment whenever you're ready, Matt. You need 5 seconds. I need 5 seconds. All right.
The pressures of a life and it tough. No stay down, mama, time pick it up. No bother with the down, full style, strictly up, full vibes. I pick it up when the bills, them, the rent and the mortgage due. Yeah. When me chalice, when your best friends are gone and it's only you. Yeah. Like up a split, turn up the music. Skanking sweet. Everybody wanna feel like free. Forget your troubles and the rock with me. You know feel a reggae music sweet. Yeah. Skanking sweet. Everybody wanna feel like.
Joining us now on the Michael Brooks Show is Brittany Sneers, or at Blue Purple Rain on Twitter. She is the public relations director for the Institute for Progressive Memetics, which is a lot more entertaining than it sounds. Which is a lot more entertaining than it sounds. It's incredibly entertaining, and you're doing a lot of fun work on Twitter. We're going to have more conversations because I like what you guys are doing. But today we just needed to come on just for a couple minutes to explain the concept behind it, and because you guys did the ultimate Verret takedown. And at this point, even within 24 hours of this thing being launched, it's a pretty crowded market. I haven't explained to the normal people that listen to this yet what Verret is, so maybe you could do like a 30-second explanation and then how you guys are making fun of it and how it fits into your kind of broader Twitter disruption mission.
Right. Okay. So Verret is a really dumb concept meant to kind of tighten the echo chamber of what I like to call the center.
Right.
And one of our jobs at IPM, or what, our self-proclaimed jobs, is to kind of attack their message and break it apart.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what we try to do with every stupid and terrible thing they came out with. And that's what we did with this. Within a few hours after Verret was released, we created the Veritifier, which means you can go in and create your own fake Verets, which is amazing because nobody's going to go in and type in the stupid fucking code to verify.
So what they do, what Verret does, Verret is created by Peter Dow, who in a world of Hillary operatives still stands out as an exceptionally bizarre, and I don't know the kind of cult-like relationships he has to Hillary, but it's a lot. And what Verret does, his big answer after these people radically fucked up the 2016 election, the big answer that Peter Dow has emerged with is a internet verification system where if you discover a meme, and correct me if I'm wrong because I still don't totally understand this because it's so whack, I almost want to give them more credit. If you get a meme on the internet that claims, I don't know, something like, say the one they love, like 12% of Bernie voters voted for Trump in the general election. You can go to Verret, and then you will upload the meme, but you have to put in as a code for it, and then it will direct you to the source of where that statistic came from. We have Verret up on screen for people watching on YouTube right now. Have I described it well? Because I still don't. I feel like I don't really get it, but I guess the point is you're not going to really get it.
Yeah, I'm going to be totally honest. I'm not exactly sure what it's for.
Yes.
I don't think it's going to work, and I hope that we've done a good job kind of just dismantling it so no one can tell real Verrett's from fake Verrett's part now.
Right.
That's what we want to do. That's like our whole goal.
Right.
No one, I mean, Peter Dow's a fucking idiot. So
Yes. Not a bright guy. So
yeah, we just kind of want to dunk on him and all of the dumb things that they're doing in the center.
the first guy that you put, the first Verrett that you guys uploaded was a Birdie would have won. Or that's yours. This is Matt. Super producer Matt has submitted Bernie would have won.
I'm so glad.
And the source is Bill Clinton. That's based off of the Bernie or Bust Bill Clinton character that I perform. So that's the first one that we would have done. Can you just briefly tell us, just in 1-2 minutes, and you'll be on a lot more, what are you guys doing? You talked about breaking messages from the center. And I just want to be clear to people, you know, not everybody in this audience spends a lot of time playing on Twitter. And I think that there is an element of, you know, it's only so important and people get bogged down in Twitter drama. But at the same time, this is a constant stream that is pretty much interacted with and engaged with by anybody you can think of in politics and media. So messages that are being shaped that turns into real content, whether it's on, you know, magazine articles or the internet or television, has a ongoing, active, and alive relationship to Twitter. So it actually does matter. So what are you guys doing to disrupt the center message and also be entertaining and fun in how you do it?
So I think the main thing is the center just kind of sucks at memes, and kind of like how you touched on, memes are the future. Twitter is a very small world, but it's really expanding because that's how messages are relayed these days.
Right.
So we're trying to make it fun again. At the same time, like, we're pushing the progressive message out there and promoting good candidates and also dunking on neoliberals. And I was told to say this, we are making Madison Avenue quality at Red Square prices. We're just trying to make quality content so that the left can grab on and kind of just disseminate it, because that's what people want to disseminate, good things.
Right.
And that's what we're here for.
We've been on the best thing before we jump off is Peter Dow, and don't worry, Peter Dow will be locked in the pyramid later when Woz comes on. But Peter Dow's big tweet in response to this website being irrelevant, or in response to Hillary Clinton being of the past, is that in just within 24 hours of her tweeting her support out to the project, now Project Verret has more followers than Chapo Trap House. Now, to be clear, that's basically saying, and Chapo is incredibly successful, and I resent them for that, obviously. But, I mean, all kidding aside, like, Chapo is great, but you're comparing, like, I guess I would hope that as whack as Hillary Clinton is, that a decades-long career in politics and, like, being the major party nominee and Secretary of State and a senator might have more pull in terms of followers than, like, the most successful independent podcast there is in America. You know, just a thought. But hey, Peter's got his own mind.
Peter Dow pulls her down, though.
I think we're just starting to learn. Peter, I feel like I take Hillary's well-being and brand more seriously than you do, and there's only one way of saying that, which is sad. So, Brittany, we're going to do more of these little segments and check in on you guys and what kind of mischief you're up to on Twitter, because it actually really is very entertaining and relevant for people inside and outside of that space.
I just wanted to mention one thing. That whole Never Kamala Corn Cob meme.
Yes.
That was us.
That was you guys.
Yes, we started that. We started the cobbing. That was us.
Institute for Progressive Memetics. Follow Brittany Sneers at Blue Purple Rain. Thank you, Brittany.
Thank you.
All right, guys. We are packed. We're going to come back when Matt is ready. Matt, are you ready? No, it's fine. You just put on whatever you want. We're going to be back in a moment with Ricky Rawls, and then after we talk with him, Woz joins us in studio.
Well, they called it a big apple, but I still haven't seen that apple. It's one of those places where, you know, if you feel like emotion for one reason or another, biggest arena, a lot of great energy, a lot of great vibes afterwards. Even though I'm not there,
compromised.
Joining us now on the Michael Brooks Show is an anonymous person on Twitter and in journalism who has made quite a mark for himself. I'm talking about T on Twitter, and also, what is it, the Championship Sharks podcast?
Oh, no, Champagne Sharks.
Champagne Sharks. Excuse me, man. Champagne Sharks.
It should be Championship Sharks. It sounds better.
I like Championship Sharks. At Ricky Rawls on Twitter, Champagne Sharks. How are you doing, man? Thanks for coming on.
Oh, I'm pretty good, man. Thanks for having me.
It's my pleasure. I mean, we're sort of doing this series. We had Brianna Joy Gray on recently, and we're sort of trying to basically separate a really, really important policy and conversation set on figuring out the intersections and the distinctions between race and class and gender and all these issues we got to pick apart and address. And then the way that basically identity is being employed on behalf of pseudo-woke right-wing bullshit politics. And also now a really even bizarre new layer where there's this sort of mystification of an identity of someone like Kamala Harris. But we'll get to that more later. But can you just kind of like tell us where you're coming from in this conversation and, you know, what do you think's going on, especially in light of this new, you know, now we've got another Hillary full court press here going on today.
Yeah, she's interesting, but where I'm coming from, what I would say is I feel like there's a lot of disingenuousness behind it because they're kind of weaponizing people of color and gay people and trans people to, at the end of the day, for some reason, by coincidence, everything they say that these identities want happens to coincide with getting Hillary or some other centrist Democrat into office, you know, coincidentally enough. And if you notice, whenever they come across a voice that is one of these oppressed identities but is somehow against Hillary Clinton, they just kind of ignore that they exist or won't acknowledge them. It's kind of like, you ever see the show Westworld, and they have these kind of robots, and the robots they literally are programmed to not be able to see anything that tells them that they're not in the real world. I feel like they're kind of like that with people of color who don't coincide with helping whatever the moderate centrist du jour happens to be. And I feel like that's kind of a big problem, is that disingenuousness. It's not even that they want to help these oppressed identities, but just disagree as to how. I just feel like it's very disingenuous, and in that way, it kind of ends up causing more harm than good.
Well,
because you're not getting a real discourse.
Yeah, right. And I think a specific example of this that I've used before in the post-game of this show that is extraordinary to me is let's take something, you know, she's the punching bag for whatever reason, but and maybe for good reason, Amani Ghani, who really is just a kind of extravagantly sort of bad writer. And she had a column where she actually said that basically single payer is sexist. That single payer, because of the Hyde Amendment, which is, of course, a sexist piece of legislation, which undermines basically women's reproductive rights and cuts federal funding for it. Because of that, we shouldn't have single payer health care. Now, Congresswoman Barbara Lee, who's really one of the most great and genuine progressive and left voices, not only in Congress, but in American politics in many respects, she's been working for decades, not only for single payer, but also, in fact, to get rid of the Hyde Amendment. When Amani Ghani does that, she's not only wrong on policy, she's actually negating incredibly important work by an incredibly important leader who is an African American woman. Is that the kind of disingenuousness you're talking about? And does this weaponization, like, I can see global dimensions of it in some ways. I mean, I've talked about Jacob Zuma and the kind of using the PR firm with the Gupta family, ironically a Tory-connected UK PR firm, to turn a social media campaign on white monopoly capital, which is a real issue in South Africa, but basically was just deployed to cover for the Gupta family and for Zuma in terms of corruption issues. Do you think that, but I guess here, I mean, did this kind of accelerate under Hillary Clinton? And is there, in the 2016 primary, and is there a way to get back and separate these issues and actually have a genuine and for real conversation that honors these distinctions?
I think the problem I have here is that there's a lot of kind of mind reading I would have to do of these people's motivations. So I just have to kind of put it together from observing and what I think they're doing. But to me, it seems like a lot of people just want to angle for jobs. Mm-hmm. And I feel like a lot of people thought if we support X centrist Democrat or Y centrist Democrat and make ourselves useful when the time comes, because everyone thought Hillary was going to be a shoo-in, we're going to be in a place to get increased access. They're kind of measuring the curtains in different offices, and after it didn't work out, there's a lot of scrambling as to, okay, what are we going to do with ourselves now? And I'll give a personal example about what you said about, ignoring Barbara Lee and, not acknowledging her stance just to make the narrative work that all women and people of color are against single payer. I wrote an article for Pace magazine, and it was all about these type of disingenuous tactics. And on purpose, I left out my race. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I didn't put it in there. Mm-hmm. And before that, there were several women of color who had written similar articles about how disingenuous the Kamala Harris debate was and the tendency to always paint anyone who criticizes Kamala Harris as either being racist or sexist. So I did this article for Pace. It was called The Centrist Smear, 5 Steps Liberals Take to Undermine Leftist Critique. And immediately on my Twitter, just boom, 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 people are like, listen to black people, listen to people of color. You need to stop being a white dude, bro. You need to do all this stuff. So I let them kind of accumulate, and then I pointed out, well, actually, I'm not from privilege. I come from a blue collar background. I'm a black guy. Wait a second,
you're a black guy?
And it's
just wait, you're black.
Yes.
Oh God, I don't want to have you on the show, man. I'm a Bernie bro, so we have a pretty tight white only guest policy. I got in
under the radar like that.
Whoa, okay, Matt, you and I are going to have to talk about this. It's awkward. It's not personal. I just. My purpose.
You have to erase me. It's part of the rule book.
I mean, look, I want everyone to have Medicaid, and I want no black people in national politics. I don't really get what's so complicated about that. I mean, that was the Bernie agenda, and we're forwarding it.
So, when I pointed that out, a lot of them either just started trying to, or they just stopped responding.
Right.
And I think if they knew beforehand, they would have just not even responded to the article at all, because that's what they were doing to a lot of the other articles that were coming out by people of color saying, don't erase us. So I think it kind of shows the responses that I got and the responses that people of color who wrote similar articles didn't get, I think kind of speaks volumes to how disingenuous it is. And there was also kind of like a weird groveling when people found out. They were like, oh, sorry, I didn't know, but do you think maybe you've been internalizing white dude broness? It's suddenly I kind of became like a project to fix,
That is so well, that's the thing that blows my mind, is that there is this, and I think on our side, and this is the reason why I'm sort of having several of these conversations, I think like we need to do a real, audit, at least even tactically, in terms of how we talk. And even as an example, I would say, like, you know, the position I sort of carved with Kamala Harris is like, look, I'm well to the left of Kamala Harris. I have a critique of her, but I also think that she can be pressured and is persuadable as a smart politician. We saw that with her going the right way on healthcare, and I understand why she appeals to some people, right? And I think that that's a sort of third way to cut on that, which makes sense, versus, you know, the sort of like, you know, rhetorical freak out that we can have. But that said, and we have a couple minutes left, and I want you to hit on these 2 points, maybe like how our on the left, our rhetorical strategies can shift or not shift. And then 2, though, how this weird new move in the center has almost, to me, like in the conversation you're saying of people going like, have you internalized white dude broness? This bizarre, it's like you're
a victim.
Yeah, and you're being exoticized, and no one can have just a direct intellectual engagement with you, which is so bizarrely
exactly.
condescending and racist and weird.
But just acknowledge that I'm not a white dude, bro. And they just could not continue to engage me on the topic, because I didn't fit the identity they wanted to slander. They just started just treating me differently, which is, you know, kind of weird. But
right.
The previous thing you asked about rhetorical strategy.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, one good thing is that I think the left kind of defaults to the correct rhetorical strategy, but what happens is that these centrists kind of try to get them off the playbook. So what I mean by that is, I think, for example, they're very personality driven by what I've seen, and they just like whoever the current centrist rising star happens to be at the moment. So, for example, when Kamala, I'll give a perfect example. When Kamala Harris said that she likes the idea of single payer, they were trying to now defend single payer and say, oh yeah, you know, she and things that made no sense. They were saying, oh, she pulled a fast one on the Bernie Bros, you know, which makes no sense because
we were thrilled.
That's exactly what people wanted on the left. They wanted single payer, and they were trying to kind of spin it so that they could still support her. But then she did another tweet later where she was like, I support Senator Sanders on single payer. And when she brought him specifically as a personality into it, now they started like turning on her. I started seeing a bunch of responses to that tweet, like calling her a traitor or getting mad at her. And I'm like, okay, she's advocating single payer in both tweets. So why is it when she mentions Bernie Sanders, the person, that's what sets you off? When if you're about the policy, you should just be happy that she's advocating the policy if that's what you really care about. And it's because I think they're very personality driven as opposed to really about the substance. Whereas I saw a lot of people on the left, and including Ryan Cooper, who wrote the first article about Kamala that started a lot of this controversy to begin with. When Kamala Harris said what she said about single payer, Ryan Cooper wrote in a follow-up article, that's a great start.
Yeah,
I'm glad that she's moving in that direction. You know, which shows it's like, it's not about purity testing, it's about holding people's feet to the fire.
Right, exactly, and, which is politics.
Yeah, and if you're doing the right thing, even if you're not as left as some people would like, for example, a lot of people think that people who are supporting Bernie in the last election view him as some kind of socialist messiah. But a lot of people realize that he's not as socialist as they would like, but they realize that he's the best thing we have now, and he might lead to the normalization of even more leftist policies, you know, in the future. But because they themselves have to turn people into infallible celebrities, they assume that people on the left are more into Bernie the person than they are into the actual ideas that he represents, or at least is moving the Overton window toward.
That's exactly right. And it's also an extension of looking at politics. And we're going to do a lot more work on this, looking at politics as an extension of brand identity versus an actual set of power and policy differences, which is this sort of reflected in the larger kind of neoliberalization of our world. And it's just so interesting that these people don't have any reference for that in their analysis. But T, I hope we can do this again soon. Maybe I'll come by and hang out. I'll call it Championship Sharks, but it's Champagne Sharks. And no, I appreciate your work, man. And I hope, let's definitely be in touch.
Oh, yeah, for sure. It was a good time talking to you. And let's do it again soon.
Absolutely. All right, man. Be well.
You too, man.
All right, I'm gonna vamp for a second. We don't need any music for this. Waz can just make his way out when he's ready. This is a very big moment. It's a very big moment on the show. Big Waz, Wozni Lambre, is crew on the Michael Brooks Show. He is also one of my besties. He also is so lackadaisical that while I'm introducing this fucker after banging on the door in the middle of the show, he's like, no, it's time to figure out my charger situation. So I appreciate that. But Waz, it's been too long. In and out of studio. Matt needs to help you out still. Is he on camera yet? Is he on the wrong mic or is he good? Is he arrived?
Testing, 1, 2.
I
think I might be on the wrong headphones, though.
I think you are on the wrong headphones. You are on the wrong headphones. Wrong. You did a terrible job.
And we're off to an amazing start.
But it's always like this with you. It always starts like that.
Yeah, I thought I had my charger. I'm just thinking about the train ride home, and I'm like, oh, damn, I don't want this thing to die on me.
Yeah, no, that's a rough...
It's a long ride home.
That's tough stuff when that happens.
To the boondocks.
It's tough stuff when that happens.
Of South Central L.A.
You go all the way to South Central LA.
No, I wish. No.
Wow, white people on the show are learning a lot. Black people's travel. They travel to Brooklyn.
We all live in Watts.
Yeah, they live in Watts, and then they go to
in squalor.
Why are you skipping the South Bronx to get back to South Central?
What's going on, though, man?
What's up? No, it's so good to. Can I look? You don't need to go into any details, but at this point, I've had not so many, but like enough viewers and listeners ask if you were okay from your intro appearance on this show.
Why? What happened?
When you came on, you sounded a little pressed. Like something was like there was some type. People are worried. Anyways, you don't have to say anything, but just tell them there was no emergency.
It was a Cloverfield situation.
Yeah, that there was no emergency when you were on a couple weeks ago.
I was at work.
Just let everybody know that everything was okay.
I was at work, and there was an incident with an individual.
I see.
At the job, and it was literally happening the moment that you called me. So if it's, I forgot about that.
You forgot about that. People have literally like. Is Waz okay, man?
Yeah, no. It wasn't happening to me. It was happening to somebody at the job, which is, without getting into too many details, I work at a facility with developmentally disabled young adults.
Oh, okay.
And this guy is like really severe in his condition. So every now and again he has a behavior.
Oh, I see.
And he was having a behavior. Literally.
Why didn't you tell him it was the debut of my show?
I don't think he would have cared much.
I don't understand.
I don't think he's a commie, Mike. I think he's a hardcore capitalist. I don't think he would have liked your show too much. Commie, hippie scum you are.
I'm not a hippie. I'll take commie. Get the fuck out of here with hippie. Excuse you. This is carefully cultivated stubble. Do you smell? Do you smell any patchouli around here?
Well, it's 2017. I heard hippies evolve with the times.
Well, that could be true. But look, before we get, because we got to throw Peter Dow in the pyramid in a second. That's not even going to be like a surprise, and it's going to be a team effort on that one. But first of all, could you tell for the new people that are on this journey how we joined forces like Voltron again? I know you said it last time, but it was a little
I was a little bit harried.
A little bit harried, yeah.
There were things happening. Basically, I was a listener. I've been a listener to the Majority Report for a while now, and when I first came to the show, I kind of thought of Michael as the co-host. I was like, oh, this is not the, this is the main guy's guy.
Not a main event.
Whatever.
Right,
and
right.
there's nothing wrong with being a co-host. It's just in my brain. I was like, all right, he's kind of there to provide, a sort of sounding board.
Yeah, he's the co-host.
Then, you made a joke. You made a joke about Barack Obama as a 5%er or a Nation of Islam adherent.
We're gonna start having a style guide. So I just will say to everybody, I won't do this on the other show, but 5% Nation is a break off of the Nation of Islam. And they teach that there is 5% that has, it's like the 85% is the blind masses, the 10% runs the 85%, and the 5% are the poor righteous teachers with the true knowledge. So people like Matt and I.
Exactly.
And so, and you, right?
Yes.
Now, what's funny to me about this is that in some ways it intuitively makes sense, but if you actually start breaking down the numbers, it's much tighter. It's more like 0.5%.
Right.
Versus 99%, right?
Right.
Yeah, so they're actually being generous.
Sure.
But 5%'s in a lot of 90s hip hop basically.
Yeah, and a lot of the ethos, because what it came out of was just basically a need for I don't even want to say it's black empowerment. It's kind of like thinking of yourself as more than what this country allows you to be. Right. So that's a lot of what the rhetoric is based in.
Right.
So if you know anything about how Barack Obama talks about his own blackness in relation to America, and how awful
my grandfather from Kansas,
he
fought World War II. And
it's
I grew
the
up in
opposite.
Hawaii. I'm everything.
It's the opposite of how he presents himself.
Right.
And it's not that he's like, oh, I'm not black. It's like it's more charitable to white people.
A lot more charitable
than a 5%er might be.
Have you had a chance to listen to, I'm not trying to put you on the spot, but last week or 2 weeks ago on the show, we played a spot for Barack Obama's late night show that's getting on the relaunched WB.
I did not catch that one.
I think you will enjoy that.
I'm quite sure that I will.
So go ahead. So you
Michael
reached out. Yeah.
Michael made a 5% of Barack Obama joke, which I thought was genius because you kind of have to get the 5% ethos and get Barack Obama's, I don't want to say his muted blackness, but it's just not 5%er. Right, and you can't be if you want to be the president of white people. You can't do that.
Matt calls it muted, but those are his words.
Okay,
not mine. Yes.
Well, there you go.
Matt talks a lot about Obama's muted whiteness.
Right, so to make that connection and understand why that joke is hilarious, I just thought it was geniusly comical. So I reached out to Mike on the Twitter. Those of you who know me, who follow me, know I'm pretty active on Twitter, but I don't really interact with personalities.
Right.
I kind of interact with people that I know and people that try to troll me.
Right.
So, I don't really reach out to people like that, but I thought his joke was so funny. So I reached out to Mike. I was like, that was an amazing joke. We struck up a conversation, and it's kind of been, and so that we had a lot of mutual interest, and we were like-minded in a lot of ways, and that's the friendship kind of grew from there.
Yeah. No, I really appreciate having you here. As you know, man, it means a lot, and obviously, we're gonna keep up with all the ways that people can hear you and all that. But I'm very glad that you're here.
Yes.
Now, the three of us need to do something that we do every week on the show, and this is going to be a joint effort because Matt is all over this, and he's on point with it.
And the target has sort of combat skills.
The target has combat skills. All right. So now I said several months ago that Robbie Mook needs to be locked in a pyramid. I just read Shattered over the break, and I think that he should be embalmed in a pyramid. So he is the inspiration for this segment. So far, we've thrown several people into the pyramid. We can't promise that they'll never get out, and we might not have to relock them up. I'm really hoping that it's this guy's only appearance. All right, let's play the music. Wait, I love Chronix, but he cannot appear in every single sound bed on this show. All right. Peter Dow, who is one of the most bizarre, emotionally attached followers of Hillary Clinton, who blocks people on Twitter, who says, hey, if you disagree with what I just said, why don't you ask my black wife about it? He has and I'm barely exaggerating.
Michael's jealous of that.
Jealous? You think I want a wife? You crazy? Anyways, Matt's in the pyramid. Peter Dow has finally launched a new project. And this project, Matt, is something called Verit. Matt, can you explain what the hell this is?
Verit is the first arm in the fight to combat fake news, and it's definitely going to work. It's basically it makes these cards, so it basically just steals from the Vox presentation. I think it's going to be based around these cards of facts, that are shareable. Someone theorized that fact cards are infinitely shareable, which I've never seen actually in practice, but Vox and Verit seem to think so. But the key with Verit is it's not just an image. It also has a 7-digit verification number, which you need all 7 digits apparently because there's lots of Verits. And what you do if you see like a Tom Hayden quote, it says like, "I've never seen anything like this before in my life," and it's like Tom Hayden, NSA and CIA director, says this thing. You can go to follow the 7-digit code at verit.com, and you can find out where that obviously true quote that the CIA director has never seen anything like this, where that was sourced from. And that's a good way to sort of, I think if you never trust anything unless it has a Verit verification code, I think we'll be in good shape.
So basically, this is, by your logic, catching people in hypocrisy and the notion that Hillary Clinton's totally lethargic and failed economic message, it all just boiled down to the fact that people weren't getting accurate memes or something through Twitter. And of course, voters you need to snag will be all over Twitter.
They're bamboozled.
Manually using their icons. And let's just restart the music. What the hell? To put in verification codes in order to fact check memes. Now, I hope that everybody will just plug this thing in with as many fake Morgan Freeman quotes as possible. Waz, you want to get in on this?
I mean, where do you even start? It's like we're gonna make a meme generator, to combat memes.
It's
that are inaccurate.
Yes.
But the tone of it coming from a guy who's a close Hillary associate is basically like, all right, we're going to try to start a Hillary 2016 presidential campaign propaganda arm.
2020.
Oh, you think this is for her 2020 run?
I think that with the book coming out and this,
come on.
They might be delusional.
No.
Exactly. Come on.
Nah.
That's the word.
Nah.
Come on.
I don't think so. I think part of it, and again, I know where I'm at. I know who's watching this show, and I'm gonna come off as a Hillary apologist. But a lot of it is like people want her to sit down, cry, admit that she sucked. They want her. They want to see her do that.
All right, before we get to
definitely.
your Hillary Clinton apologies, we have to first, and of course, I just want to also let it be known that Peter Dow said, as soon as Hillary endorsed this, we had a service attack, which obviously is some type of implication of Russian interference.
The Russians don't want people to get real news.
Yes.
Oh,
Peter
God.
Dow for being mentally unhinged, insane, and slavish in his devotion to a failed candidate, not for having a black wife, Matt, is sentenced to the pyramid. Goodbye, Peter Dow. Fuck you forever. All right. now,
can I just make one more point on that?
Please.
I think I might have said this earlier, but
yes,
the idea that if Trump had lost the election and then he's like, all of you people who trust everything I believe is true, I made this new website, only trust the information that you get on there. Here's a code, and you can find out to make sure it's true. People would think that was insane and dangerous and just bizarre. And like not something like we're laughing about it, but that's only because it's already like it's impossibly easy to counterfeit these dumbass things and then make a joke out of them. But if this was a serious thing that could have actually worked, it would be scary. It's just not.
That's exactly right. David Slavic, just real quick, clothes producer David Slavic on Twitter. Important TMBS FM poll. That's our show. The recent media venture Verit is Juicero for memes, which is pretty good. Soylent for news, or Uber for tone deaf PR.
Oh, God.
I vote Juicero for memes. But even before we get to your craven defense of Hillary,
Sure.
there is no, and I agree with Matt that it's a creepy premise, but the idea that this election was hinged
on memes. It's a miscalculation.
It's just
of
a
what
completely
happened.
wrong assessment
Yeah.
of the landscape.
So
6 months later, after these people are right, like we're being terrorized. It is a truly dangerous, disgusting administration. I'm not an accelerationist. I told people to vote for Hillary Clinton. I tried. They didn't give me much to work with. This is all they've got. Like, this is the brain trust, and she doesn't dissociate herself with it. She tweets out to get involved with it. It's embarrassing.
she. I mean, okay, so we would have to ask Hillary Clinton to disassociate. Like, she's not going to do that. She's not going to disassociate herself.
She doesn't need to tweet out support of it, brah.
I'm not saying she needs to, but Michael, like,
yes.
Do you really think somebody with a cockamamie idea, who was your friend for a very long time, was like, look, just tweet it? You'd be like,
I say no to cockamamie tweets now. And I'm not a national political leader.
Hillary, I mean, in Hillary Clinton's mind, it's like, this is a guy who's been really loyal to me. I'll tweet his new product, which is ostensibly supposed to be defending me. Now, that's not even what I want to get at. What I'm saying is, like,
all right,
they're kind of misreading the important stuff. It's like, yes, there was Russian trolling, but they were trolling the kinds of people who would believe these things anyway. When you want to talk about important stuff, you talk about like CNN, MSNBC, the New York Times,
or having like a policy portfolio.
Well, sure, but that's not what I mean.
When
when you talk about like facts and all of that, like those people, Comey, when that's on their TV every day from sources that like semi-normal people respect.
Yeah, it's not online memes, it's actual media.
Yeah.
It's not like, well, I heard
that's
that
who you need
Morgan Freeman said that love is something that you don't feel, it's something you cultivate. And Hillary Clinton is a goddamn child molester.
The Pope just endorsed Trump because Hillary's a pedophile.
I had no idea. The Pope said, look at this here, it's on this meme. The Pope says, even though Mr. Trump and I do not see eye to eye on the wall, I cannot abide by Hillary Clinton's rampant child sexual abuse in pizza parlors. So I guess I'm going to have to be shifting my votes in this here situation.
Right. Dash.
Yeah, dash.
End quote, dash.
End quote, dash.
Papa Francisco.
Papa Francisco.
So, yeah, that's not what lost you the election.
But by that same token, this meme here says that Pope Francis has endorsed Donald Trump because Hillary Clinton's a child molester. I'm going to put that there in that Verid outfit and see whether or not this checks out.
Right.
I mean, it's just
ridiculous.
the mismatch. Even if we were generous enough to accept all those premises about that this played some disproportionate role in the process. And there are bigger, there do need to be responses to modern propaganda. Of all kinds.
Maybe not voting for the people they're propagandizing on behalf of?
No doubt. But I'm saying, but they're not, I mean, but
Yeah.
Verification share blue is not the answer.
Right. No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. But again, and it's not even to defend Hillary, but on a level, I get it. Like when people sit around and say, well, you ran a really awful campaign. It's overstating the facts. Like the opposition, are we saying Donald Trump ran a flawless one? Because he won.
He ran the run that he needed to run.
Sure.
So it's like if you take just all ethics aside and you say, look, Hillary Clinton went to devastated parts of the country when she even did to begin with. And was like, and by the way, and again, the platform doesn't matter because nobody really looks at the platform. But she had a more progressive platform than Obama.
In the history of any major nominee in this country.
Not more than McGovern. Don't overstate.
I mean, like, think about it. In the history of anybody who's ever won the nomination for either party in this country, like
more
it's
than
right
anybody
there.
in the modern era.
Sure.
But she went out into Wisconsin and she said, hey, you're deplorable, and here's Beyonce. I have nothing to do about the economy.
That was awful.
And then what Trump did, and the reality is that if we look at the polling, the irony is that the center doesn't exist, but to the extent that there is a center in this country, it is where I am economically and on corporate issues, or in my realm, and way to the right on some really key issues of civil rights and social justice.
Right.
Like nationalize the fucking banks and, deport people, except for the nice guy who's in the restaurant by where I live, because that's different, right? That's people's bullshit. That's white people's bullshit. But so Donald Trump came out and he gave, that's why I always knew he'd win the Republican nomination. He said, let's do racism without subtext. Beautiful. And then I'll go and I'll pretend and I'll hustle and I'll scam you on economic issues. And they didn't answer any of it. Sure. So it's just hard for me, especially, I guess, as someone who is well to the left and doesn't buy, I don't think her administration would have been good at all. But I had to come out and say, look, don't be a moron. You got to make sure she wins. They couldn't even give me enough to work with to do that. And now on the same day that this dumb project comes out, she has this book excerpt where she says, Jake Sullivan, my top policy advisor, told me it reminded him
in a top policy meeting.
Yeah, in like a actual meeting.
Well, I don't know that that's true, but I mean, I'm just imagining it.
Yeah, it reminded him of a scene in the 1998 movie There's Something About Mary. A deranged, just listen to how insane. Like, this is crazy in its own way. A deranged hitchhiker says he's come up with a brilliant plan. Instead of the famous 8-minute ab exercise routine, he's going to market a 7. I like how my Hillary is kind of like a 30s like gangster, like 7-minute abs. Hey, all right, I'm gonna do that's my new Hillary thing. It's the same, just quicker. See. Then the driver, played by Ben Stiller, says, "Well, why not 6-minute abs?" And that's what it was like in a policy debate with Bernie. We would propose a bold infrastructure plan, see, or an ambitious new apprenticeship program for young people, or super predators. That's my edit.
By the way, Bernie's plans were out before hers were.
Yeah, Bernie Sanders were all out before hers. And then Bernie would announce basically the same thing, but bigger. On issue after issue, he was like that. He kept proposing 4-minute abs, or even no minute abs at all. Magic abs. And then she quotes from a Facebook thread that I guess now, because I've teased, I've got to read. But this, how delusional is this? Someone sent me a Facebook post. This person running for fucking president. Don't send me a Facebook post while I'm prepping for my show. Someone sent me a Facebook post that summed up the dynamic in which we were caught. Bernie, I think America should get a pony. Hillary, how will we pay for the pony? Where will the pony come from? How will we get Congress to agree to the pony? Bernie, Hillary thinks America doesn't deserve a pony. Bernie supporter, Hillary hates ponies. Hillary, actually, I love ponies. Hillary supporters, she changed her position on ponies. Hashtag witch Hillary, hashtag witch Hillary. That actually pretty good. Diss of a certain kind of support. I'll give them that. Headline, Hillary refused to give every American a pony. Blah, blah, blah. So I'm saying this is actually the guard. Like, she ran a whole primary and then managed to lose to a fucking clown fascist game show sexual assault guy in a general election. And she had a whole primary jeopardized by a plus 70 socialist because she's so profoundly out of touch with the inequality crisis in this country. And her response in her book is to talk about 4-minute abs. I mean, that's delusional and dangerous and actually, ironically, very stupid.
Yeah, I mean, again, I'm not a Hillary. I never liked her as an idea.
Right.
But like, just practically speaking, right? Like, I get it. It's like, look, if you're Hillary Clinton and you're known as a liar, you're a two-timer, you come out and you be as ambitious as Bernie Sanders, and then you win, and then you come out and you have to be way less ambitious practically, right? What's the answer to that?
But that's
her narrative. That's what she's fighting against.
That's not what she did, though. That's not what she did. The way that dumbass page that's been leaked, which I hope is fake, that characterized her disputes with Bernie, is like Sorry, I forgot what I was going to say. I got distracted by
Did you pull
that Bernie stuff seemed unrealistic.
Yeah. So what didn't
fantastical.
happen? Bernie was really saying is Bernie would come out and say, I think we should have universal higher education, and Hillary should say even for Donald Trump's kids, which like that riposte wasn't good enough to make the fucking book, but this bullshit from Facebook is. And the thing that and the thing that I get pissed off about this Hillary stuff is even you right now, no one really defends what she says. It's all like, I understand she's acting like a human being would act, which is fine, but that's not like at a certain point you have to defend what she's actually doing. And the entire time since this election, she's been a nuisance. Like she's just been an irritant, I think. And I think she should go away.
That's where I disagree. In that,
really?
I
what
think,
has she done?
No. I'm not saying she hasn't been a nuisance. I think when you talk about people that come out and it's like Kamala Harris is a dirty cop scum, right? That's a nuisance to me too,
Matt.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but
what is this person supposed to come out?
But that's what Hillary
do?
always does. Is she says, "Look at these crazy right wingers or the crazy people," and she uses that to discredit everything, and everyone sees through it.
And that's the problem too. Is that because actually, ironically, Kamala. Because I told you I cut a third lane on Kamala Harris. Because the reality is we're being honest about her record. It ain't great.
Sure,
that's the truth.
Sure, she was a cop.
Yeah, I mean, and she argued.
It's hard to have a good record as a cop.
Reducing mandatory minimums. She argued against repealing prison labor. That's real.
Right
now, someone could get on and pop off on Twitter and whatever, and that can be annoying, and it could not be contextual of who she is and the experience of where she comes from, and blah blah blah. I agree, and also I think I said many times I recognize way more so than Hillary. I get the appeal of Kamala Harris. I get it.
Sure.
But the reality is that her record is not great.
Sure.
At all.
Sure.
So what people were pushing is, and this is where she's different than Hillary Clinton. She's like, okay, single payer. Let's move.
Right.
She's reading it. Hillary Clinton, and Matt's exactly right, because Hillary Clinton, first of all, the order is wrong. Bernie had proposals before she did. And secondly, like, she's not progressive. She's not left. So instead of just saying, I essentially think that there shouldn't be any reclaiming of wealth in this country. I think there should be very minimal interventions to sort of slightly adjust the margins, and basically that's it. Like, that's her fundamental belief, and that's the fundamental conflict that we need to have. And she is like the endless pioneer of public narcissism in terms of never allowing that conversation to happen. And I get that there are people who I thought it was disgusting when people copied right-wing talking points about her and made her out to be some serial killer or said that they wouldn't vote for her over Donald Trump. It's all dumb shit. Right. But at a certain point, especially after you fuck up an election that leads to Trump winning, and let's be clear, it mostly was their fuck up. Then,
right. I mean, I think that's
they had
debatable,
endless resources. They chose not to campaign in the swing states. They chose not to, literally this could have come down to 100,000 voters that she refused to talk to based off of a deluded premise that they get rich suburban Republicans, which is who she'd prefer to blue-collar people anyways. At a certain point, come on.
Listen, this is what I think we're arguing two different things, honestly.
Right,
I think the problem is that she ran. You have a problem with how she ran.
Oh, I have a problem with both.
I don't have a problem with how she ran. Like, the bottom line is she came out and she wasn't as progressive as Bernie. Bernie pushed her. We got her there. Now let's get it done. But it's not enough. That's not enough.
Done.
Okay, exactly. But it's over. Right?
Well, look, if she
That's my point. Like, it's not enough that she lost for
She's
people.
not over
They want
She's
blood.
not over it.
She's still an active political actor.
She
shouldn't be, in my opinion.
I agree. And she didn't come out one time and say, here's my audit. Here's where I was wrong. Here's where I didn't get how the electorate worked. It's all Russia. And it's like, yo, seriously? Like,
let me ask you, Mike, who else do we ask that of? Did they make Romney do that? McCain?
Well, actually,
no.
Yes, they did. Romney in 2012 was done. Not only was he done, the dude did a
I'm talking about,
conference
did
call.
he have to come out and say, well,
But he didn't come out and say shit.
I should have been nicer to the Mexicans.
He didn't come out and say
well,
anything.
I should. Exactly. Nobody made him do that.
Well, nobody would bother Hillary if she wasn't out in frontline politics. She could go hiking and nobody would care.
I don't agree with that. Like, all people want to do, they like, and I'm talking about not just the people on the side of Bernie.
You think I would be talking about her if she wasn't like out writing this nonsense about what about Mary or whatever the fuck? Really?
I think it's her right to put her book out.
Of course, but I'm saying,
you know what I'm saying? And if she wants to defend what she went out and did, she thought she could be the president. Go ahead.
It's like, what about Mary?
Like,
but
if
it's criticizable that she put the book out right now, isn't it?
In what sense?
Like, she has the right to do it, but the wisdom of it, like. Romney didn't come out with a book after he left.
Mitt Romney 6 months later did go, why those takers lost me the election. My book. I learned absolutely nothing. I can't believe I lost to a fucking black guy by Mitt Romney. No apologies, part 2.
I've also tried to read Hard Choices, and the world did not need another book from Hillary Clinton.
Yeah, I mean, again, I'm not gonna read Hillary Clinton's book. Right?
Exactly.
I'm not going to vote for her in the primary, but I don't care that she wants to make excuses for why she lost. Like, that doesn't bother me.
I don't care about her as a even just if you got, and we got to
beat her again. That's my point, right? Like, people want to act like, oh, well, it's her job to see that she lost and the party's moved past her. Then get somebody to beat her next time.
But
why don't we do that?
Well, part of how we do that is by debunking her disingenuous nonsense, which is what we're doing right now. This is the beating her in 2020. If I just sat back and was like, oh, yeah, wow, it's amazing. It's like so bizarre. Hillary Clinton has a new book out, which is filled with excuses for her fuck-ups, which is really novel coming from her. I would have never expected that. Then that would be, and I'll just be quiet. Because honestly, where I might be different than other people is if it really was just personal, I think regardless of Hillary Clinton, I think it's a travesty that the first serious woman candidate who could have been president lost to a dude that I think is a rapist, right? Like, if I had to I think that's a fucking travesty. I think it's disgusting. And if you just put it on a personal, emotional level, Hillary Clinton, it's horrifically tragic. And honestly, when she talks on that level, I get it because it's ridiculous. But if you can't have this election set up for you in so many ways and misplay it so badly to get us to the point we're at now, where today we all should have been, and I led the show off with DACA and Arpaio and all of that, but then we've got Dow and Clinton coming back with this something about Mary and Verrett. Just
Look,
leave,
man.
Find a hobby, play tennis, get the fuck out. Come on.
Look.
Yes,
we're just gonna have to. We're just gonna have to disagree on that point. Like, this idea that it was, the election was just open for her to take all of these voters, and it would have just happened for her if she was just an expert campaigner, and Trump was just immensely beatable, and this was just all gonna happen for her. I honestly don't believe that, and maybe that's because I'm looking at it from a position of how the campaign actually played out. And how this guy won. Like, the guy won without having to be competent at all. So this idea that it was set up for Hillary is
no, it wasn't. It was set
like, it's not like Trump came in here and just took it.
But she made strategic errors.
It was set up for him.
But she helped play into that, right? Like, when she made the whole thing about Trump's character, you make it a character thing. Like, Trump's better at that.
Yeah, I mean, even then,
and it's not. Here's the thing. Like, a very simple example. Like,
that is a great line. No, Trump's better at that.
He is better at that.
I'm better at character stuff.
Why I'm laughing, Matt? The reason why I'm laughing, Matt, is because I thought you were about to say that Trump had better character, but then you said no, he's better at assassinating somebody's character, which.
Let's all right. So here's what we got to do, because we're gonna get to the post game in about 10 minutes. But first, I want to bring on Kath Barbadaro. Barbadaro, nice. You can just come on. Okay. You can come on, Mike. Where do I sit? Right next to Waz. You can listen
need a seat for her.
You can listen to. Oh, she doesn't have a seat yet. Oh, my mistake.
It's right there.
All right, you'll be on in 1 second. And Kath is a DSA member.
Yes.
She is a stand-up comedian.
Correct.
She's also someone who can read the cards.
It's true.
And in the fun half, we're going to get tarot card readings for Sebastian Gorka and Sam Harris, all in the post game. In the post game, we're going to get those readings along with taking your calls, taking your IMs.
Hi, guys.
You're good?
I'm good.
How you doing,
I didn't
Kath?
knock anything anything over. I'm good. How
Thanks
are you?
for being here. Waz is all worked up because he loves Hillary.
Yeah, I love her. Yeah. I love neoliberalism. I love pseudo wokeness. I love Hillary.
Okay, I feel
hot sauce is great.
Hot sauce is great, say. Oh, would you be questioning my support of bombing children in Yemen if I was a man? Checkmate.
Yeah. You know what?
Ready for Hillary.
I'm just too empathetic as a human being. Like 20 years plus.
Yeah, as a friend.
That's your burden, the cross you have to bear. You just you feel too much.
20 years plus of the right-wing propaganda machine and like actually going through that as a human being and then actually thinking that you could do a good job as a president and doing it.
What the Clintons is that, and we're going to do a Hillary Clinton tarot card read in a second, so things might be better for her. Don't worry, Waz. The cards might look good for her.
But she should quit, Mike. She should quit. She should retire.
Maybe, yes.
I think,
but I just think that the only point I'll make, and I want you to jump all over this, is that, yes, and there are a lot of people who are fresh to politics like us, relatively speaking, but we've, read some stuff about the 90s. We have a sense. Right. And I think, yes, there's undoubtedly a massive Republican war against the Clintons.
And the New York Times. Don't forget them, because that's important, too.
It's true. And it goes back decades.
Clinton cash they ran.
Yeah, Clinton. It's a real thing. And if you're fresh to politics and you don't get that there are a bunch of weird, sleazy, rich people who tried to destroy the Clintons, you don't know. Now, but to me, that is two lessons in that. Number one is that, yes, the Clintons have been the victim. There is a vast right-wing conspiracy. That's true, and a lot of it involved a lot of sexism.
And they're slick, too.
Sexism and conspiracy theories and all the rest. That's true. But the second thing is from an ideological perspective, it's fascinating to me that, like, how irrelevant and shrunk and closed modern late-stage capitalist politics have become, that a democratic power couple that was willing to eliminate most of the social safety net, sign every trade deal imaginable, deregulate the financial sector, increase poverty, cut bad environmental deals, basically pretty prone to support most invasions imaginable. They had no policy portfolio other than showing up at like the commemoration of a civil rights march that could offend Mellon Scaife or some of these old dirtbags. So it's fascinating ideologically that the fighting was so vicious and the stakes were so low.
Right.
And so to me, like, those are the smaller lessons, no doubt. And you should read even Sidney Blumenthal, read his book on the Clinton years. Like, it's real. They dumped a ton of money to destroy those people. Over what? I don't quite understand, because their politics are really not all that left. Anyway, Kath, jump in.
Oh, I was just gonna say, I thought you had an interesting point before I got on Mike, and I was like, I wish I was talking right now.
You are.
Anytime I'm listening to other people talk, I'm just wishing I was talking. Really, is what it comes down to. But no,
I agree. Anyways, back to you.
You had an interesting point though, where you're like, when we're talking about Clinton fucking up, and she did fuck up, and the people who ran her campaign, more importantly, fucked up.
Yes.
You were saying, well, I don't think we should make it seem like it was so easy for her to win, like it was a layup, like she was coming in here and just was gonna like hit a home run, to use mixed sports metaphors.
It was a layup, say.
Yeah, but like I think that's what the mistake was, is that her campaign also felt like this is gonna be a walk in the park. Look at this.
Trump's campaign thought that about Hillary's campaign.
They didn't have Waz there being like, they hate you. They're inbred, sexist, racist, misogynist, brain-dead motherfuckers. They listen to Alex Jones. They eat swine. Look, see, that's what you should have been coaching.
I had a conversation with somebody who was really close to me in my life, like somebody who I consider to be a rational human being.
Right.
Has done amazing things for me personally, right? A white man.
Yes.
And he voted for Donald Trump, and he literally told me, like, I just couldn't do it with Hillary. She's just too corrupt. I said, what?
Every time, especially relative to Trump, I heard somebody say Hillary was too corrupt. I always heard it as like, I'm not voting for a fucking bitch. Like, I always heard that as sexism. And I'm not on that pseudo woke train. Like, I was in the primary being like, fuck you. I don't like Hillary. How dare you accuse me of being gender motivated? When we got to the general, I heard people say, especially on a corruption issue.
That's where I was like,
you don't want a woman president.
I said, man, maybe if they would have ran a run-of-the-mill Republican, it'd be cool. He was like, well, if they would have ran a run-of-the-mill Democrat. I said, wait,
she is a run-of-the-mill Democrat.
And that drives me crazy because, like, I feel the same way of I don't want to make things that aren't gender issues because I take gender issues too seriously to do that.
Right.
But, like, she's not uniquely bad. Like, she's bad. She's maybe slightly worse than average in some ways, but she's a very run-of-the-mill
You won't
Democrat
go into my email server, say. I'll have your whole family killed, say. I've had teenagers murdered starting in the 70s, say.
Hillary.
I'm Hillary Clinton, say. So you are going to do, and also you're going to do some tarot card readings for people who call into the post game.
Yeah, I have a gift I can read remotely, so.
You might even be able to give a scope out some shit for Waz and I, maybe even Super Producer Matt. Although Super Producer Matt, I should say, is a hyper skeptic.
Yeah.
He's a member of the skeptic community.
All right.
Yes.
I'm a paid up member.
That's Matt, like, he could literally, like, go to the Himalayas and see, like, a yogi levitate in front of him, and he'd be like,
placebo effect.
Sure, there's some type of, either
there's a mirror or something.
Placebo or scam.
You're right. I would not think he was actually levitating.
He's not actually levitating, but the hashish was great. That's Matt's report from the Himalayas. But before we get to all of it, and this is another reason you got to become patrons, join the 594 that's probably even grown during the show, and it's really a full service, you know, with the daily briefs, with the articles, and at comrade level above. And also, I should say, at the Brooks Brother level and above, your voicemails are coming soon in the characters of your choice. And with the daily briefs and with the seminars, it's really like we're trying to basically do like, if the masses or anybody at $8 a month or above could have like a political consulting firm at your disposal to get educated on politics and to figure out the best ways to intervene on your terms, that's what we're trying to put together in addition to the shows on Sunday. Mike Hanna, from former CNN Jerusalem bureau chief, Al Jazeera correspondent, he worked for an independent radio station in South Africa during apartheid. We talked about the history of alternative media and the fight in the 80s against the apartheid regime. Then he covered for CNN the Mandela election in '94, which is a lot more complicated than people realize. So we go through that history together with actually some context to the present day with Jacob Zuma, which has some bearing on some of the things we're debating now. So you've got to become a patron now. Way more in the post game. But first, Kath, what does the coming years, will Waz have his dream of a long-delayed Hillary Clinton presidency? Yes.
Who knows? You know, it's not for me to say. I'm just interpreting the cards.
Nice. See, this is where Mac goes, see, already she has created it out for herself.
She's given herself a lot of room for a lot of different types of predictions.
Yes. Confused. This is a confused category, and I object.
Well, all of my predictions are certified true and accurate on Verrit. You can type in your credit card number and your social security, and it'll come up.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah, so,
all right.
You know, I know what I'm doing.
I believe you. All right, so Hillary Clinton, what is in store?
Okay, so do we want to know,
do we have any, like, magic ball music we could get for her, possibly? Ooh.
Yeah, I don't know if my cards are on.
It's okay.
I'm shuffling.
The cards are shuffling. That's fine.
It's probably good if it's not on camera. I'm not very good at shuffling.
You are on camera. It's okay.
Oh, good.
It's okay. Don't worry. It's fine. Matt's just getting some Magic 8-Ball music. Waz is checking his phone for alerts from the Clinton campaign.
I'm listening. Don't worry.
Well,
from the Clinton campaign 2020?
Yeah, exactly.
I'm going to volunteer for that one.
Yeah, he just donated. Pre-ordered the book.
He has a transcription service of everything that I said.
Why would I want to relive the pain of Hillary Clinton's failed campaign in book form?
There was that moment after the campaign where that was like united everybody that wasn't the worst people in the world. Like, Waz and I, like, we both voted for Hillary, but we already had these arguments. And I remember the next day after, or even though night of the election, after midnight, just got on the phone. I was like, dude, you remember what you said? You were like, oh, we got Barry for another couple of months.
That's what I said. That's exactly what I said. I said, shit.
Yeah, you said, you want to go get drunk, dude? Yeah. All right. Do we have our music? All right, Hillary Clinton.
Here we go.
Moment of truth.
It's not looking good.
Ooh.
Oh, it's not looking good.
Not looking good,
Well,
say.
I can see the cards.
No, I'm not looking.
You're not looking? I mean, no, I've picked them. It's okay. You're allowed to look.
Why?
Now.
You
You
can
just
look
don't
the
want to. You're like, I'm on my phone.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So I don't know if the people at home can see. I don't know how we
No,
should
you
do
can just
this.
explain all of it.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
people, yeah.
I pulled 3 cards, just like a typical sort of.
I love this music.
This is really good. I'm gonna play this and like turn on a fog machine in my house when I do this.
Yeah.
So this is the first card. We have the 8 of Swords.
Right.
The picture is a bound woman, blindfolded, surrounded by swords.
And that should be exactly where Crooked Hillary is. This is a great reading.
You see that?
Great reading. Great reading. Totally true.
Is one of the swords named Ravi Mook?
That's the swords represent all of her incompetent staffers who are just imprisoning her.
That's the truth. If you read Shadowed, you feel bad for Hillary Clinton.
I just started
because
it.
of those people. Oh God.
Robbie Mook is just wow.
He was the inspiration for the pyramid.
Might
as
be
I
the
say.
most punchable face in Democratic politics.
Yes.
Period.
Important distinction in the world that includes Ben Shapiro. Democratic politics. Okay, go ahead. Yes.
So yeah, this represents feeling sort of like mentally stuck, like having a mental block.
It was the Russians, eh?
Exactly.
Right,
it's very
if
you're if you can't see a way around something, this is your card. Like you can't.
So this is mine.
Is this you?
Is this me?
No, this
No,
is
this is
Hillary.
Hillary.
Oh, this is Hillary
You just,
Clinton.
but you're identifying with it,
You're
so that's telling me a
identifying,
lot.
yeah.
Good.
Ooh.
But no, yeah. So I feel like this makes sense. She's a little. She's still clearly bitter as fuck. Like
Yes,
that.
yeah.
That's a big. This is a you might need to take a look at your priorities type of card.
Yeah, you should really calm down.
Yeah. Yes, definitely tell all female politicians they need to calm down. That's a good.
That's exactly right. It's date night. Can you figure something else out, Hillary, please? Bernie would have won.
So,
Yeah.
second card,
Yes.
we have death.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're going to make me want to contribute to her exploratory committee. This is terrible.
Death in the tarot, it doesn't usually mean a death. It usually means some kind of dramatic change.
Like letting go of Robbie Mook and Peter Dow as an example.
Exactly.
So it might be
Or
really
just
positive.
letting go of politics.
It could be.
Ooh.
It is like a lot about sort of
I like that.
things ending and then new things starting. It may also represent the people who fucked up her campaign, who she will probably have killed. But
It's a body count.
It's a body count. I can't wait till Dow. We let him launch Barrett before he got the clips.
R.I.P. Vince Foster, man.
R.I.P. Vince Foster.
I'm just saying, dude.
Barrett's cover for a hit squad.
just saying.
Barrett's. There's a much deeper operation.
Those codes are actually tasks.
Those codes are hits. Yeah.
Peter Dow, put in your verification code to find your next victim.
The Cali cartel learned the whole chicken wiring thing to deflate bodies from us.
I feel like you guys
That's
are
a
really good at
conspiracy out
this.
there, by the way.
Yeah, we're good at this.
I learned about this conspiracy today.
Yes, which one was it?
Pablo and Bill Clinton had some
I did that on the show.
Oh, did you?
Yes.
Nice.
Pablo Escobar and Pablo was an enterprising young Colombian businessman.
There
He
you
saw an
go.
opportunity for non-traditional revenue streams that could benefit his people and the people of Arkansas. Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so our final card.
Yes, final card.
Our final
This is so
card
good.
is the 5 of Pentacles.
Yes.
Also not great. Also, it's a picture of like a dude with a head wound.
Goddamn right. A lot of head wounds around us.
And this card, this tends to mean like a financial loss of some kind. Maybe Verrett's not going to do that well. I don't want to.
Well, good thing homie's paying for it out of pocket. He said he hasn't been able to get any VC money together. He's paying for it out of pocket. So
Yeah, but that leads me to some disturbing questions, which is, first of all, how the fuck does Peter Dow have that kind of disposable income? And secondly, if he does, he just burned through a lot of it. Because people that know how this world works, like David Slavic, other super producer, inform me that a site like that that's a real
nice
financial undertaking.
It's a nice chunk of change.
Yeah. So I'm going to submit. What did you submit earlier?
Maybe he
Matt?
lied about paying for it out of pocket, but right now that's what he's saying. He's saying he's paying for it with his own money.
Yeah, I wonder if there's like funding that he doesn't he would prefer not to talk about.
By the Saudis.
Don't say a word about the Saudi funding, see? Or you and your wife will end up in the trunk of a car, see? You saw what we did to Vince. Saw what we did to the other guy whose name I forget. This joke would be a lot better if I could remember it. Who's the DNC guy?
Oh,
Seth Rich.
There you go.
We took care of business on him. We'll take care of business on you, Peter.
Oh my God! I've just entered all these verification numbers in, and it takes me to a website that says we did Seth Rich.
It's like the back end is like in a Matrix reveal.
It's like like any movie where they're hacking. It's just all the numbers
Yes,
are
the
like
numbers just appear. And then she's like, Russia gets nuked 2021. And then it's like, Sharia law
Jesus.
verified.
I don't even know what a
Sharia
Hillary
law.
Clinton 2020 campaign even looks like, sounds like. Like,
get ready for her again.
Fuck.
Civil War too.
Civil. All right. Well, look, everybody, I want to thank you so much. We are at 106 reviews on iTunes. People are watching it and sharing it on YouTube. But the main metric is to become a patron. That's how you get the whole experience. I've sold it to you before. Thank you to the $5.94 that I'm aware of. As I say, it might be more now. People in the Discord, hop on the Discord now to give us topic selection for the post game. We will take your ideas and run with them. The IMs are open. We already have some, including from 20s gangster Hillary Clinton. And the phones will be open, 646-257-3920, 646-257-3920. And the fun half, we're going to have a reading for Sebastian Gorka and for the Sam Harris, who, if anybody makes me like Hillary Clinton, it's thinking about Sam Harris for 2 minutes. Maybe also for Waz and myself, and for super producer Matt, who's about to have his mind blown. And for you, if you want it. We're going to take about a 5-minute break. We'll see you on the post game. Join the show today to get that Sunday South Africa content. And thanks, everybody.